both production and post-production in the state of Connecticut. So thank you all for coming. We have the back doors closed, please. And if anyone has cell phones, if they could take their cell phones and either shut them off or put them on vibrate, so we don't disturb other members of the committee. We have also invited members of the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee to sit in on this meeting because at some point, because of tax credits, that this bill will then be forwarded over to Finance, Revenue, and Bonding. As we see, Forest Service Senator Stillman from Finance, Revenue, and Bonding is with us today to listen to testimony. Members of the committee will also be in and out of the committee room between the hours of 10 and 12:30, which is the time that we have dedicated for this hearing because they have other commitments and other committee meetings and other meetings within their district in their offices. So as I had stated, we will convene this. We are convening this meeting now until 12:30. We are going to have invited guests speak first, then agencies second, and then the public third. The invited guests will have 5 minutes to present testimony to the committee, and then will be up for review of questions by the committee. The public will have 3 minutes of time testimony, and we'll have an opportunity to address the committee for questions. So if I could turn to my co-chair for comments prior to the start of our invited guest speaking.
Thank you, Jeff. As we're a little late, I'm going to keep my remarks very short. This is an exciting opportunity for the state of Connecticut. We look forward to hearing the testimony today. I want to thank my co-chair for doing a lot of work on this bill and all the staff that have been working on this bill. We hope to move this bill rather quickly through our committee after we hear the testimony and after we hear how this bill is.
Chairman. Thank you. First on our invited speakers list is Doug McAward, former chairman of the Connecticut Film Commission.
Now hold on, guys. You can share the chairs.
Well, that's never happened before. I guess I got to turn that on, right?
Hollywood, Doug, I do things different.
Okay. I thought I only had 3 minutes, so I'll slow down, all right? Okay. Hello, my name is Doug McAward. I'm an independent producer, and I spent 11 years on the old Connecticut Film Commission, 8 as chairman. I want to thank Chairman Berger, Chairman LeBeau, and the entire Commerce Committee for conducting this hearing. And I want to thank Speaker Amon for his support for our industry. The state of Connecticut has the opportunity for once to be a leader in the film, video, and digital media industries. In the coming years, billions of dollars from investors all over the world will be invested in television, motion pictures, and digital media. There's only one question that needs to be answered here. Does Connecticut want a piece of the action? If the answer is yes, then you must pass sections 1 through 10 of HB 5797 with some minor modifications. First, the new Connecticut Office of Digital Media and Motion Pictures should not be housed at the Connecticut Office of Tourism and Culture because it has absolutely nothing to do with culture and tourism and everything to do with economic development. The primary goal of the new Connecticut Office of Digital Media and Motion Pictures is to create an industry here, not fill hotel beds. The new office and commission must be staffed with experienced people who come from within the digital media and motion picture industry. Sections 1 through 10 contain some of the most comprehensive tax incentive plans that the motion picture industry has been offered. While other states and countries have targeted just the actual production days for incentives, we've gone the extra mile and included both pre-production and post-production in our plan. More and more dollars are being spent in post-production these days. All movies released on DVD now have up to 8 hours of additional footage, trailers and interviews, behind-the-scenes stories, outtakes, and special effects demos. All of this programming needs to be produced and edited, and this bill has a section dedicated to targeting this element of the industry. No other state has this yet. It's all about saving money. When the major studios see that they can save money by setting up post-production shops here, they'll jump at it. They've already proven that because they are constantly sending their production work to places that offer incentives that save them money. Connecticut can be the only place that offers the post-production incentives for the time being. Sections 11 through 27, in my personal opinion, should be deleted because they turn out to be a $100 million mistake for the state of Connecticut. The last thing the state of Connecticut should be doing is investing in motion pictures. Some statistics. Every year, some 50,000 movie properties are registered with the Writers Guild of America. Of that, some 500 movies are produced, and of that, only 50 turn a profit on a good year. Remember, Titanic has yet to turn a profit. The state of Connecticut should not be focused on choosing a production on its ability to turn a profit in order to pay back state bonds. We should be focused on whether or not a production gets produced here, and that's where the tax credits come in. Without the tax credits, Connecticut won't even be considered for productions. There's never been a better time for Connecticut to take action and grab a piece of this industry. My only advice is that if you're going to do this, listen to the professionals and do it right. Thank you.
File copy, I believe that you referred to.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the changes that you've recommended and the working committee has recommended have incorporated those changes in the final bill, and this committee will at JFS later this afternoon.
Okay.
I'd like to, for the benefit of the committee, to kind of explain a little bit production, post-production, and the importance of this bill as it addresses the actual post-production of a film. Everyone sees the cameras in the streets and they talk about the production of a film. But I think that this, and I know that this film really kind of centers on an area where the state of Connecticut can really break ground. And I'd like for you to explain that somewhat.
Well, like I said in my testimony, that most other states and countries are going after what you'd call the sexy part of the industry, where the big lights and the stars come in, and you've got 50, 100 people in a crew. And that's great for a shot in the arm. Connecticut has gotten some of those in the past, and probably by default or by accident or just because it was convenient for something. Connecticut doesn't offer the kinds of locations that a lot of movies require, so we wouldn't even be considered for those kinds of projects. Studio work can be done anywhere. The only way you're going to get them here is by giving them something in addition, and on the production side will be the tax credits. The one element of the industry that nobody's gone after is the post-production, the editing. When you look at a movie like King Kong, for instance, it was $200 million. Half of that was probably spent in post-production. Those are permanent jobs. Those are bricks and mortar. Those are jobs that people drive to and go home at night. They're not hotel beds. They're permanent jobs. And that's where we put a section in the bill there that goes after just that, where nobody else has done that. For instance, you look at Law and Order in New York. That shows the original series has been there 14 years, and they've got 2 or 3 others that are going strong. All of their editing is done in California. They've got a huge facility out there, and all the post is done out west. I'm sure the city of New York would love to see that come in, but they don't have anything to attract it there. So since we're not really offering locations like the Statue of Liberty or the Gobi Desert, we've got to offer something else to get a piece of this business. And since the post end is growing and it is more permanent, that's why we targeted that element of the industry. Believe me, if this passes, you'll see the other states and everybody else jumping on board trying to get in on the same deal. But it'd be nice to be first.
Yeah, thank you. It's very interesting in talking about that. Again, the post-production is being so very, very important part of the development of the film for its theaters. In creating these incentives and attracting businesses and attracting business growth and job growth within the state of Connecticut, in the post-production area, are there existing companies that are located within the state of Connecticut that address this post-production area, and where do you see that expanding within the state of Connecticut?
Well, there are quite a few post houses in the state already, but I know ESPN is a huge magnet for work. There are a number of post houses that opened up shop just around the corner from them because of the overflow that they have. They still farm stuff off to New York also. There are a number of other post houses around that have a regular stable of clients, from corporate to commercial. They could easily expand if this work came into the state, which would create new jobs. If a company was really serious about, if a studio was really serious about getting involved with something like this, they can actually set up an entire operation here, because it really doesn't matter where something is cut, where it's posted. If you give a studio the incentive to do it, there's a good chance that the bean counters are going to say, let's set up shop there because we can save money. And you're not driven by, again, I know we don't have a very deep crew base here, so that's a down, that's a negative. We don't have the great locations that deserts have and oceans have. We do have our own unique ones, but we don't have enough to satisfy everybody. So when this can be done in a dark room, that's where the editing's done. Downstairs, no windows in the rooms, tons of work, tons of money, tons of business.
We're going to be hearing later from a tax attorney for the benefit of our friends in finance, which I also sit on when we talk about multipliers and the ability to gain a benefit from the tax credit that we are going to provide as a state when we're using taxpayer money as a benefit. One, we're going to have on that, but getting a little bit more in depth in that subject with the tax attorney, do you have an opinion on multipliers, the industry multipliers, and how you feel these tax credits will ultimately benefit the taxpayers of the state of Connecticut?
Yes, the multipliers, I'm sure everybody has a copy of a report that was done in Louisiana last year, which was sort of a negative towards the industry, but that was the first I'd seen that, and I did my best to try to find out where they got that multiplier. Over the years, the Association of Film Commissions International and state legislatures all over the place, they've all worked with multipliers ranging anywhere from 2.3 up to 7. I've even heard somebody throw 9 up there once, which was really ridiculous. So anytime that, my experience, we've always used a nice round number of 3 to be at the low end of it. That multiplier in the Louisiana one was 0.39. So it's a 39-cent return on every dollar, and I don't know where that came from. I thought maybe the guy had the decimal point in the wrong place, because I couldn't find it. He said he got it from the Department of Commerce. I couldn't find it. So that's the only one I've ever seen that's ridiculously low. And I know that you're all familiar with multipliers from different businesses that you hear from all the time, and I don't know if anybody's ever heard something that low. So I would say that if you look at a multiplier, somewhere in the neighborhood of the range of 2.5 to 3 would be a safe bet, a conservative bet.
Thanks. We can get into that a little bit later on also.
Okay.
Now, we have the bill before us, and obviously we've read it. We're going to make some small changes to it. I'm interested in your view on competing with other states. You talked about Louisiana, and when we look at Canada, very difficult to compete with because they've been involved in the generation of this industry for probably 10 years or 12 years. We're in our infancy trying to build a base for an industry through this bill, through the leadership of Speaker Amen. How does this bill, as it's written today, with some of the changes that you've recommended, how does it compare to those states for us being competitive in this market, creating a base?
Well, you have to look at it from 2 angles. One, compare it to the states, and one, compare it to Canada. Canadian deal is pretty much impossible to beat because you're getting an actual, call it a kickback when you go up. When you leave the country, you're getting a check depending on how much you spent there. And some comes from the federal government, some comes from the province. So there's a direct cash return when you do something in Canada, in addition to a lot of other deals. And the exchange rate right now isn't all as favorable as it was a couple of years ago. So that's slowed down some of the Canadian work. As far as comparing us to other states, we've got enough, we looked at all the other states, and we decided what worked and what didn't work. And people are going to be trying to match this now. It's not like we're trying to give away a huge amount. The tax credit of 25% on the smaller production and 30% on anything over $1 million, those numbers are comparable to everybody else. We're just covering more items that could end up creating more jobs here throughout the year. we're covering more. Since we can't offer certain elements, we're offering what we can and putting tax credits against those, which will create the jobs in that sector of the industry.
And thank you, Doug. And I believe it's important to note here that the state of Connecticut is building a base for industry here. And we're starting it, and we're going to try and certainly attempt to do it right the first time, and we'll certainly have changes, I'm sure, moving forward, because every bill isn't perfect. But it's important within the context of what we do here today and what we hear from everyone in the industry today to build a solid foundation and a base for the industry. That's going to benefit job growth and the creation of a strong industry base in the state of Connecticut. So, thank you for your testimony and questions from the committee members. Representative Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sir, for your testimony. I understand your perspective that initially this would be extremely competitive because we would be broadening the types of things that would fall under the tax credits. How do we compete down the road when the other states play catch up and do that? Are we going to be competing on the dollar value of tax credits? Are we going to have to get very generous, much more generous than we are right now?
That's what competition does. You've got to put the brakes on somewhere because it's going to get to a point that it's not affordable. I think the unique thing to our deal here is that if somebody takes advantage of these tax credits, they're making an investment in bricks and mortar and permanent jobs. Now, for someone to steal those people to another state is not as easy as stealing a transient production. So that's where we're targeting areas that once people are set up, and you've got your editors all living in whatever, Fairfield County or Hartford County, and somebody says, geez, we could save a few bucks if we move everybody to Pennsylvania, they're not going to move. It's easy to move a transient production from place to place, but not the bricks and mortar. And that's where we figured if we targeted that, there wouldn't be as much of that. Once these tax credits kick in and you audit it down in a couple of years, you'll know whether it was right, and you'll also know whether, if it does get more competitive, whether or not it's affordable to actually tweak them up. But it's hard to do it without a baseline right now, knowing exactly what they're going to cost in the long run. It's just that we know that there's a limited amount of money, and we can't get too greedy. But I think in order to at least compete, you've got to at least step up to the plate. But if you only come up halfway, no one's going to listen to you anyway. So that's why we got creative with it.
So we really have probably several years to develop a base.
Yes.
And develop that infrastructure, and once that infrastructure is in place, people aren't going to want to move.
This would be harder to move them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ranking member, Representative Nugent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Hi.
Thank you for your time and for your testimony. You alluded to the fact that other states have the infrastructure that we don't.
Mhm.
The Empire State Building, the desert, attractions that the state of Connecticut, unfortunately, by its nature, does not have. And I am sure that those other states have incentives in place right now to offer the industry the ability to come and stay there and work there. And I know that by tax incentives, you offer a variety of projects, variety of things, variety of taxes. But for this specific industry, what is the one thing that you would say that if the state of Connecticut would offer it, it will be something of innovation, something that some other states don't offer? Or if we are to compete with them, we need to give them something that no one else has ever thought of. What would that be?
That would be the expanded eligible jobs and categories, being post-production and pre-production. We've also got a section in there for the pre-production. Intellectual property rights. We have a section in there that covers if a project was written in Connecticut. It doesn't have to be about Connecticut, but if a project was written here and the rights were purchased here from a writer who lived within the boundaries of Connecticut, that element of the tax, that element would be eligible, provided 75% of the movie was produced here. That's the only 75% rule that we have in the package. New York State has, in order for a motion picture to be eligible, 75% of the production days have to take place in the state. We can't force that. The only time we bring that up is if somebody creates a project and wants to get the pre-production intellectual property rights included. They're limited in a percentage of the actual budget, but that alone right there would be an incentive for somebody to try to keep it here.
There is an issue that is just like starting to develop right now, discussing intellectual property rights. There is a big movement that started by one of the big corporations, IBM, to do what is called open standard, open source, which means intellectual property become available to everybody who wants to use them, rather than just the person or the entity that developed them. If that is the case, and if that happens, would we end up probably losing what we develop here or what we try to offer here if somebody else is going to jump on the equation and take it away from us? And if that is the case, then I'll go back to my previous question and say, if they are offering the same thing that we are offering, or maybe better, why would somebody want to pick up more company? And I love to see them coming here, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But why would they want to do that if they are being offered the same type of...
Well, I don't know what this IBM offer is that you were talking about. I'm not sure I understand what they're offering. Intellectual property rights on a motion picture isn't something IBM has control over. It's the rights to a movie or a television series. And then I'm using just those big... There's so much more digital media that's going to be covered under this, from interactive games, interstitials, iPod programming. All of those things need to be produced somewhere. And there's intellectual property rights that go along with any and all of those. How IBM is coming in with something, I'm not sure exactly what that is, but I don't think IBM can't steal the rights from somebody who wrote a story or a program or a concept. I'm not sure what that's, so, you know, from that point, we're covering that. And I think the most unique thing is the post side that we're covering, too, where other people aren't offering that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Guggens. And if we can, maybe Representative herself and maybe one other, and then if there's other questions, maybe we can wrap it up later, because we do have quite a list to get through in our 2.5 hour time.
Okay.
Representative Guggens.
Thank you so much for being here, Doug. And I guess maybe you think you've got all the answers, so we're asking you all the questions. But we are looking forward to the other testimony coming forth before us. But one of the things that I see repeated in a couple of places is the objection to being housed
Yes.
in the Office of Tourism and Culture Tourism. What does that mean to you in terms of being housed? Because there may be a way in terms of setting this up in a way that there's a clear affiliation with it because the interests are similar and symbiotic. I can't say, or I wouldn't say it has nothing to do with it, but tell me what you think being housed in that office means.
Well, if you're looking for similarities in a department to house something somewhere, the most obvious choice would be in an economic development environment. I go back to, I've been around doing this for 15 years as a volunteer with the commission, and we wrote legislation back in 1995 that kicked in, and that's originally where the office was set up. It took a long time to actually get it opened over there through, everybody knows what went on, but still, once it was finally there, it was where it should have been in the first place, because it has more to do with economic development than it does to do with filling hotel beds. And that's the whole point here, is trying to create an infrastructure in the state with people who live here, not people who visit here. And that's where it's much more, at least from my point of view and from a number of folks, that's pretty much the obvious choice for it. And that's why we're pushing to have it put back there where it really belongs in the first place. Okay. Okay.
Looking forward, and thank you again for all your work.
Okay.
The working committee to help craft.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next up on the invited guest list is Joe Gentile from Utopia Studios. Congratulations, Representative. Thanks, Joe. Come on up, right up here in front. Commerce Committee has quite a vibrant atmosphere about it. So then you can identify yourself to the clerk and provide your testimony. You have 5 minutes to go, and then you'll be available to answer questions. Thank you.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm going to try to keep this as short as I possibly can. I know you have a long list of people coming through here today. My name is Joseph Gentile. Although I am the CFO of Utopia Studios, I am not here on behalf of Utopia today, as I'm here as Joseph Gentile, co-chair of the Creative Industries Cluster in the state. I think the legislation that's pending is so important, not so much for ourselves, but for if you want to build an industry, you want to mirror what the other states around us are doing, and it certainly shows that it works. What we want to do is we want to create an atmosphere and an environment that will foster and attract, those of us within our arts, entertainment, and creative industries community to come forward and to create jobs. And that's what it's all about, creating jobs and opportunities. So with that, I'm going to keep this very short. I have a letter here that I would like to read into the record. It's from Paul Newman, dated the 14th, and it says, "Dear members of the state legislature, I most specifically applaud the efforts of the governor and speakers of the House and the Speaker of the House to set forth legislation to create film and television jobs in Connecticut. I would have been with you in person, but I'm swimming the channel, or at least that's the way it feels with the script. Joanne joins me in sending the same. Sincerely, Paul Newman." As we know, that Paul and Joanne are also Connecticut residents. With that, I just want to add one thing. A lot of people are concerned whether or not the arts and entertainment community will come here to Connecticut. Well, the big surprise is for many of us, the Northeast is our home. And it's not so much that will they come here, it's more of a homecoming. On that note, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, John. Thank you for your comments. And again, we've had many meetings in the past, and we look forward to get to this point today, hopefully on a vote on the floor in the Senate. So thank you for all your expertise and your wife's expertise in helping us craft this important legislation. If you can, and I know that we've talked about it in finance revenue bonding, but for the benefit of commerce here, your project, Utopia, and the beautiful site that you potentially have, and the ability, long-term, the development of that site and the benefits that it has to the state of Connecticut, not only in the trade unions that'll be involved, not only in the job growth in the industry, and the revenue to the state of Connecticut, but the potential of the basis of forming a strong industry tie. If you could just give us an overview on that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, with respect to our project Utopia, and obviously I can't discuss the status of it because we're in negotiations and we promised not to, but what we are proposing is 22,000 American Union jobs. These are head of the household jobs. They come with tremendous benefits. It's something, by the way, that's meant to be a catalyst, for an industry. But an industry isn't just one company. It's many companies, many people servicing, and as a community. The arts entertainment community is just that. It is a community, and it's an industry in the second part. Some friends of ours are coming forward today. Actress and supermodel Carol Alt, Danny Aiello, my wife, Ron Perlman, just to show that we're here, and I think Mr. Newman's letter is a great legend and an outstanding example of what a person in our industry should do. We're all committed, as is everybody on our team and throughout our community. We're committed to coming here. And we're here today to tell you that everybody supports your efforts, your wonderful efforts to help make this happen and create jobs and opportunities in an industry that's just purely a win-win-win for the state. I know there are attorneys and bean counters coming before me who can explain the details of all that, and I'm sure they'll be able to help you with some of the technical questions that you may have.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Are there questions from members of the community? Yes, Senator.
Joe.
Senator LeBeau.
Thank you. Joe, good to see you. You comment, Joe, on other states and particularly about this bill in terms of the value of the incentives for pre and post-production tax credits. And as we look at the bill, we see that that's the emphasis of the bill. And why is that? Give us your comments on why that's important for the state of Connecticut, particularly in terms of its topic, interest rates, the number of jobs that can be created.
Well, if you want to build an industry, that's something that's important. You have all your surrounding states. Rhode Island probably has some of the best tax legislation to attract filmmakers. Massachusetts, New York has tremendous success on their new programs. What we've seen occur in Louisiana, and quite frankly, what we've seen occur in Canada. A big part of what drives us on this project is American jobs. We're committed to American jobs, our industry, and our community. We've recently supported legislation in Congress. It was bipartisan, as it should be. It was the American Jobs Creation Act. And it made, incentives on a federal level for attracting films to thwart runaway production. And our community has endorsed this overwhelmingly. The jobs that have been lost to Canada and other parts of the world, and it's not that, we don't like these wonderful places. They're great places to visit, but, you'll ask Ron Perlman, he'll be the first one to tell you. He said it before publicly, and it really hit home when he told me. He said, I'm an American, and I like making, American films with Americans in America. And that's the growing trend. That's the commitment from our community, and we want that to happen right here in Connecticut. So I would really urge you, not that it's of any direct benefit to Utopia, but what's important, if you want to build an industry here, and it's a wonderful industry with many positive attributes that are far beyond anything you put an economic value on, including culture and public image, and there's a direct correlation with tourism, and the state, is increasingly, supportive of tourism, has been very successful with tourism. These are all wonderful non-direct economic benefits that are realized by creating this industry. It's a wonderful opportunity. These other states are now recognizing that filmmaking is creating a project, and it is a manufacturing process. And that is a fact. American exports are, American entertainment is arguably number one or number two, depending who you talk to, number one export. And there's something really wild about American entertainment. It can't be duplicated, and the whole world wants it. We'd like to do that right here in Connecticut. So anything that you can do is applauded by our entire community. And I'm looking around this room, and I see Senator Cook and Senator LeBeau and the Berger and, Andrea and, all people here that have been very passionate about this, has asked the questions about this, have worked very hard. And it's a wonderful thing to happen. And the more you can do to do that, we applaud you, because you'll be creating not only jobs in Connecticut, but American jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Frankly, I wish that more industries felt the same way in terms of creating jobs in America.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Joe's the biggest salesman. Does a great job. Senator Cook.
Thank you. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Senator Cook.
One of the difficult challenges we're facing is the issue of that Columbus Circle labor agreement for New York. Now we are going to be sandwiched in between the agreement that Boston area included when they negotiated with Rhode Island for their tax credits to include the entire state of Rhode Island in their local. And now we've got, the local in New York that only goes out to 25 miles without having extra expenses on it to go. So we are now stuck in this little no-land land in between. And as much as we are working so hard to create incentives, to match the Rhode Island programs, or to do as many things as we can, we've got Sonolus already existing, we've got hopefully what will happen with Utopia, we have Frank Capra Jr. looking at North Stonington. can they really be successful if we don't get some sort of new local or new agreement that we would expand the boundaries of either the Boston local or the New York local to include our part of Connecticut? How can we get to that piece? Because I see that as one of the major barriers that's going to get in the way, no matter how many tax credits. I appreciate your comments on that.
Well, absolutely, that is a consideration. But I will submit to you that Louisiana is a lot further from Columbus Circle than we are, and they've done tremendous, as has Rhode Island, and as Massachusetts, and New York City obviously is there. I'll also submit to you that, you know, the arts and entertainment community is it's not any different from any other industry. If you make something make sense, the money seems to follow money. And if you think that it's a challenge to create a movie in Connecticut, I submit to you to try to make a film in Winnipeg, Canada, in the middle of the winter, 30 degrees below, and the only attraction is a tax credit. You know, today, the filmmaking finance process is largely based on tax incentives. And, you know, where in the past, you were interested in your above the line and your below the line costs, now all of a sudden you want to know what are the tax ramifications in creating this finance package. So more now than ever, tax incentives have become important. And it's not going to be the basis of all movies, but if you want to really capture and create an industry, you really want to be as attractive as you possibly can. You know, Connecticut is a reason why we're here. Connecticut is, in our opinion, the ultimate choice for this film studio. And the reason being is that the talent is already here. The sad part about, historically, about the creative industries in Connecticut is, not only are they born here, they're from Connecticut, not only do we educate them, and specifically in the arts, but after we educate them, they leave because the opportunity hasn't been here traditionally for them to benefit from. So let's do something about that, and I think that's really what the incentives are all about. It's the legislation, it's the administration working together, bipartisan effort to bring this forward and to create some opportunities for our next generations.
So if we create one of the unique parts of what our proposed bill does is to try to incentivize a post-production center of excellence.
Absolutely.
We have clearly some wonderful animators and video experts at Sonolist. I expect you will probably have animators, and we'll have others that will be able to do more of the post-production piece. Are they going to be limited by this Columbus Circle thing and the Rhode Island?
No, but I also want you to submit, when you look at the filmmaking process, generally it's, you know, my wife says it best, in order for her to be in front of that camera for a scene and an acting scene, you generally need 140 people. Those are all when you see the end of the movie, you see all those credits, those are good paying technical professions, careers. And you can't make that film. You can't manufacture that film, that product, without that technical expertise. And although that we pay well for that, the cost of that comparative to the cost of the feature attraction of actors and actresses, of directors and producers, and the costs associated with that are far greater in proportion generally than the technical aspects of it, which you have professionals, trained, skilled professionals providing a trained, skilled service that's required to make that product. But I wouldn't get so caught up on the technical aspects of that as you would the mainline talent costs. That's where the labor really costs in the film production. And, you know, tax incentives go towards that total budget. So that's something that's, you know, going to be certainly beneficial.
What I'm trying to get to, though, is how much in tax incentives. Rhode Island was able to do what they did on their bill, but it included this agreement to have the entire state be part of the local.
Well, I would submit.
Are we going to have to change what we do with tax?
After being in Connecticut for close to 4 years now, there's one thing I've learned, and it's been a wonderful process in learning, is that Connecticut is unique from any other place in the world. And that's what makes it great. Okay, so I would imagine that you're going to come up with legislation that is going to be unique, and it is going to be spectacular. And I'll leave that to you, because I have a pretty good feeling that the people in this room and in this building are going to have no problems coming up with something that logistically is going to make sense.
Joe, thanks for your comments. Senator, we're going to have a couple of tax attorneys up towards the end. We might want to redirect those questions to them at that time. Joe, thank you for your testimony here today.
Thank you very much.
Next, Speaker of the House, James Daniel.
Well, good morning, wonderful Commerce Committee. I apologize that I didn't bring any notes. I don't think I need any this morning, but it's a real pleasure to be with you, Chairman LeBeau and Chairman Berger, and the wonderful committee. As you see here behind me, we have some wonderful people joining us, not only directly, but in this whole room. We have Kathy Mariotti Gentile, Carol Walt, Ron Perlman, Danny Aiello, James Noble. In fact, I have to tell you that last April, I was watching TV. As you know, I've told the story before about this whole thing on Utopia. Didn't know much about it. Kind of looked at it and said, what is this? What is this thing all about? Same exact time, Howard Baldwin was in town. I met Howard Baldwin on another issue about bringing the whalers back. And I had a chance to ask Howard, what is this whole thing about movie studios? What do you think about that happening in Connecticut? And Howard basically said, why not Connecticut? He was the first one to say, you know, you have so many people live in Connecticut. Many of them are in this room today. In back of me, there's a lot of folks in the industry, high-paying jobs, technical jobs, engineering jobs, jobs that we want to create in Connecticut. We're talking about what can we do to stimulate the economy, and Howard said, you need to be competitive. The people in Connecticut that are in this industry, you have a ton of them in Connecticut, what you need to do is give them incentives. They don't want to go to Canada. If they can stay where they live, just like all of us. What do we always say when you say to me, the Speaker, what time are we getting out tonight? And you want to know that we're not going to be here 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 2 in the morning because you want to get home to your family. You know, these folks in back of me are no different. They have lives too. They like to do their work, do their job, and go home to where they enjoy living. That's here in Connecticut. So I think we have an advantage over Rhode Island and Massachusetts and Canada because we have so many talented people here. We have also being between Boston and New York also gives us an advantage. Canada right above us. So I'm telling you that we are at the same spot we were in tourism in 1992. When I sat on that committee in 1992 about tourism, I had that same first Connecticut Yankee attitude. Tourism? Why would you put me on a tourism committee? What the hell is tourism in Connecticut? I don't want to go. If I'm going to go tour someplace, I'm going to go to Boston or New York or, you know, L.A. or Las Vegas. I'm not going to go spend any money here in Connecticut. Well, how long was I? By the time I was done as vice chairman of that committee, I became the biggest advocate for Connecticut because we have such a beautiful state, so many things to offer, so many beautiful beaches, so many great homes in our state. And now it's a billion-dollar industry. I will guarantee that a decade from now, when you make the decision to go forward as a legislature on the film industry, this will be 10 times what the tourism industry, if not better, for the state of Connecticut. This is a huge investment for job creation, for us to zero in on something new as we've done with biotech and stem cell. This is a great opportunity for us. Some people say, well, why do we have to be better? You know, can we be the same as Rhode Island and Massachusetts? Can we give the same incentives? My point to you is why? We proved it in the gas tax and diesel tax years ago, Connecticut being such a small state, that by reducing taxes in certain areas, especially in the diesel area, we can create more revenue. But we want to be better than Rhode Island. We want to be a little bit better than what Massachusetts is doing. And that's why I hope we're going to do that here and do that this year. It's very exciting. I mean, to have these wonderful people. These people are professionals that are here today, people that many of us that we know and we admire. And I can tell you, every one of them, I've seen their movies. I've seen them in other things too. I've seen them model. And I'll tell you, we got some good people in this room. And I have to brag, I was with Jim Noble. Jim, can you stand up for a minute? Stand up for a minute there, James. If you remember Jim, he, he's played in a lot of good movies, but one show was one of my favorites. He played the governor in Benson, and he was terrific. And he had an opportunity to go down to see his studio. I never was on a studio set, Joe. And so Jim asked me to come down to Norwalk, and I was very fascinated to see how it operates, how it works. It was a lot of fun for me. But the best part, guys, I have to brag. I might have a 5-second bit. They threw a jacket on me and threw me in the scene. My first acting debut, so who knows? Who knows? Speaker now, hey, listen, if Ronald Reagan could be an actor and then become president, why can't the speaker, right, be a speaker politician and someday be an actor? Who knows? Well, sometimes there's no difference between the two, we know. And with that, it's really a pleasure to be with everybody here today. You know, you're all my friends from both sides of the aisle. This is bipartisan. I'm glad to see the governor also supports this legislation. I know Senator Cook and others, Senator Stillman, have been big advocates for this for a long time. Let's try to get this done and get it done quick. And I would love to answer any questions, because I know you'd rather talk to these wonderful people in back of me than to keep on yapping to me all day.
Thank you, Speaker, for taking time out for your busy schedule. And I know that you have a lot of commitments today. It's a busy day for you.
I hope you come over. We got corned beef sandwiches and a roast starting in half an hour. And we hope you join us at the Capitol when you get a chance. We'd love to have you there today. We've got some great Irish dancers, a world champion coming over there, a great band, so please enjoy it. The luck of the Irish, the sun came out, so glad to be here.
Thank you again.
All for the American Cancer Society, right. I got my plug in.
Speaker, thank you again for, on behalf of this committee and my co-chair, for your commitment and your bold initiative in seeing the need for this. And when we talk about the need, we talk about post-production, and we talk about production, and your leadership in forming this working group that put together a draft proposal that I think is aggressive and bold and establishes and captures a market dealing with what you talked about, job growth, stimulating the economy, building the base of an industry in the state of Connecticut. All of those elements and more are within this bill. And as I had stated before, certainly every bill is not a perfect bill. This bill addresses an area that's going to be important, again, in establishing a base in the industry. So as this bill moves through this committee today in a bipartisan way, and certainly through finance, I believe that we have created that base, and I look forward to its vote on the floor, and I congratulate you, sir, on your leadership on this issue. Questions from members?
You're very smart. You don't ask the speaker any questions. You all are very blessed. I can't help you with bonding. We got to help. We got to do what we can to work with the governor together on that. But I'm sure she'll be good to you too. One last thing, the Senator. Now you're going to ask me a question, right? You're challenged. Wait, before I do it, let me also say that I also see Frank Capra's studios here. Raise your hands back here, Joe. The rest of the crew. There we are. And we also, of course, we got Utopia that Joe just talked. Stage Door, which is hopefully I got that right. Is that Stage Door? Jim? What's the name of your new company?
Open the gate.
Open the Gate. Annual Stage Door. Open the Gate. Yeah, that's it. Open the gate. Open the gate. Who did I miss here? Oh, and Moses, Sonalist. Is anybody from Sonalist here today? Okay, of course Sonalist, because, now Mindy's telling me who I forgot now. But Sonalist, Mr. Chairman, if you want to do something great for this committee, maybe Sonalist will get mad at me for saying this. If you want to do something, get yourselves over to Sonalist and see what they do over there. It is one of the best kept secrets in Connecticut. That's probably what they wanted to keep it, but you know what? Too bad. I let that secret out of the bag. Sonalist, we already have a proven record there. Red October won the Academy Award. They do some great recording, the Aerosmith and many other big stars over there. Take the committee over there if you haven't seen it. It will just totally blow you away. And I'll tell you, when you talk about high-paying jobs, high-tech jobs, people with skills, they're sitting over there in Sonalist. I think they employ somewhere 600 some odd people in their whole company. And I'll tell you, when you finish that tour, Chairman LeBeau, Chairman Berger, I know that my staff and I, when we walked out, we felt pretty dumb. That's how smart these folks are over there. Just totally blow you away, and it was just a fantastic studio. And if we can do a sonolist like that, and we can give them some incentives, and we can do it for Capra, if we can do it for Open the Gate, and and let's not forget, geez, my Lord, Mindy, you're right. Let's not forget the building trades and the job creation that we can have for all our building trade guys who've been on this since day one. They deserve an applause for working so hard. So give yourself an applause back there, building trades. I'm sorry, I'm excited about that, Mr. Chairman. I know we're not supposed to clap. No, Senator Cook?
Those are rules I believe that you established.
I know, I apologize. I apologize, you're right.
But actually, Mr. Speaker, that is in the works for this committee along with finance to take a road trip.
Wonderful.
And also for the people at Sonolist along with the chairs and regular members of finance to meet on tax credit.
Soon, hopefully, we're going to take a bus to Utopia and a bus to Frank Capra Studios and Sonolist and Open the Gate and all the rest. It'd be fun to do here in the state.
Senator Cook, you had a brief question.
Mr. Speaker, it's a delight to work with you. You're a breath of fresh air for bipartisan. We appreciate that. I just want to let you know that when the bill gets signed, it's Mr. Pizza for all.
Hey, sounds good to me. You're going to get...
Brief comment?
Just a brief comment, Mr. Speaker. After yesterday's testimony before the after-school legislation, I see such possibilities here as they come into the state to be able to offer really strong programs for our youth in Connecticut, and as someone previously testified, to be able to build that foundation for people to stay right here in this glorious state. So thank you for the work you've done, and thank you to all that are here, and I hope to see their contribution in the future.
Thank you, Representative Bowles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, give me the hook. Oops.
Senator Stone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Senator.
Speaker. I also, Sonolist is in my backyard, it's in my town, and we're very proud of them, and I appreciate your recognition. I appreciate your recognition of the work that they do and their contribution, as well as the fact that I'm enjoying working with Joe and Utopia and all the other folks. But this isn't just a bipartisan effort. I would also say that it's a House and Senate effort. Many times, both chambers go in different directions. I think this is one time when we're all on the same page, and I will certainly do my best to make sure that continues. So I thank you again for your leadership on this. As a former House member, I feel comfortable congratulating the Speaker of the House, and it is refreshing for all of us to work together. So I look forward to meeting the other folks. As someone with New York roots, I'm thrilled to see all these folks in here.
Well, Senator, I also know how hard you worked for this industry and for Sonolist and what a supporter you've been, and thank you for shedding the light on it to make. I'm so glad that I think we have some great opportunities here.
Yes. Thank you.
Give me the hook.
Thank you
I'm
for
done.
your comments, and Senator, thank you for your leadership.
Okay, thank you.
Next up on tonight's guest for the committee, we have a panel, and I guess I'd like to come up as a panel of actors and actresses, Carol Alt, Kathy Moriarty, Ron Perlman, and Danny Aiello.
Thanks, man.
We'd like you each to make comments, and then we'll hopefully be available for questions from the committee.
Okay, yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. I'd like to, well, everybody's been introduced, and,
You could, for the benefit of the clerk, when you do speak, just your names for the record.
sure, my name is Kathy Moriarty Dinfield with Utopia, and my friends and colleagues from the entertainment industry have come up to support all of you and us in this venture, and I'm going to let them speak first, since and then I'll kind of close, if that would be okay. So, Carol, how about you go first?
Good morning, committee. I'm Carol Alt. I've lived in Connecticut for 8 years. I've done about, well, I'd say somewhere around 100 hours of film, not 1 hour of which was shot in Connecticut. I had to move from Connecticut back to New York in order to get work, and then I moved from New York to Canada in order to get work. And when I look at Connecticut and how much I loved living here, how beautiful the state is, and that it was my home for a very long time, and how much I enjoyed living here, I find it a real shame that we can't seem to put together some kind of package that can support an industry like this to come here and give jobs to those people who don't want to live in the city and who don't want to leave the country in order to be able to work. And I think the baseball movie with Kevin Costner said it best, if you build it, they will come. And I think that that's exactly what Kathy and Joe are trying to do with Utopia Studios. I think that you will be able to work out whatever problems you have because it's bringing jobs to Connecticut, where I know the military, because I used to be in the military as a kid. I was in ROTC and my father was a colonel in the reserves. I know the military was a big industry here, and it's kind of fading away and creating a void. And I think that this industry can fill that void, can employ a lot of people, and bring a lot of people to this great state. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy just asked me to talk about tax incentives really quickly. Ron, do you mind?
No, not at all.
You know how that you went up to the joint Canada for that?
I found in a lot of other countries, I worked extensively in Europe and Canada, as I said before, and I live in Canada now. I find that many other countries have tax incentives for the productions, and that forces people to have to go there and work. And I think it would be really great to have some kind of tax incentive here to bring people home. I would love to work in my home. I'd love to be able to go home at night to my family and see my sisters and my mother. But my industry and my work has brought me everywhere else in the world because every other place has tax incentives. Canada does, Italy now does. I can't work in Italy anymore because I'm not Italian. And they hire Italians because the productions get tax incentives to hire their own. I think we should do that more in America, protect our own jobs and bring people and keep people here. Sorry, Ron, all yours.
Are you sure?
I think so. Kathy, am I done?
You're done, Carol.
Kathy says I'm done. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Ron Perlman. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to congratulate everybody in this room for the fact that this discussion is even taking place. This is an important discussion to be having here in the United States. I have now made films on 6 continents around the world. There are 7, so I'm hoping not to finally round it out because that would be Antarctica and it doesn't agree with my constitution. But anyway, 6 continents, it's a fact that I'm rather proud of, but it's also a fact that dismays me somewhat because the reason that I've had to go to work on so many places so far afield from my home is because everything basically ends up boiling down to what makes most sense economically. And of the movies that I made in all those continents, probably 5% of them were made because they needed those locations. The other 95% of those jobs were made simply because it made sense to go there because it was cheaper to make the films. Now we happen to, so I have participated in as an active player in the outsourcing of what was quintessentially and fundamentally an American industry that we have, like we have with so many other quintessentially American industries, just given away to the rest of the world who came in and undercut us and underbid us and found a way to take not only our crafts, but jobs away from the people who whose ancestors created those jobs to begin with. Now we happen to be living in a very important time because we happen to be seeing a movement afoot here in the United States of finding ways to compete with the world, and it's working. You see films being made, for instance, and I talk about movies. This is true of any industry that outsources for economic terms, but I talk about movies because it happens to be, you know, my industry and what I know the most. But there are movies being made in parts of the United States now that no one imagined would be attractive for movie-making purposes, simply because there are aggressive tax credits available, and business is sucked into those vortexes like as if in a vacuum. There are movies being made in New Mexico, there are movies being made in Rhode Island, there are movies being made in Hawaii, there are movies being made in Puerto Rico, that those places never entertained those industries before. Louisiana probably is the greatest example because it's the most aggressive tax credit that exists in the United States. It went from $20 million in revenues in the year 2002 to it was on track to do $1 billion in movie revenue if it weren't for Katrina in the year 2005. If you would have told somebody 10 years ago, we think Louisiana is going to be one of the film capitals of the United States, you would have gotten a lot of strange looks. But tax credits, things happen. Same thing in New Mexico. Same thing in New York State. New York State just posted $600 million in revenues that were spent on movies. Now, the effect that it has directly on the numbers that I'm talking about for movie production has nothing to do with the ancillary effects when a movie comes to your community. Restaurants do better. Dry cleaners do better. Hotels do better. Gymnasiums do better. Because there's this influx of hundreds and hundreds of people coming into the community who would not have been there before, who are availing themselves of the hospitality of that particular community. And the impact that it has on communities is untold. I'm not an expert in these issues, but I am deeply patriotic, been made deeply about my proclivity towards trying to find ways to come back home and work here so that I'm not as far away from my loved ones as I've had to be over the course of time, and obsessed with the idea of helping any community that would like to address the idea of how to bring back a quintessentially American industry. And I applaud you for even taking this matter up. I think if this thing is passed, the discussion 10 years from now, when you reap the benefits and see what it is that you've laid in these seeds, you'll be really proud of yourselves for participating in turning the tide of an industry and helping your own local community.